Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Anonymous UPSC Trailblazer. I would want to say that the yesterday's video was uploaded today because there were internet issues. So it got uploaded today at 11 in the morning, and now I'm doing the newspaper reading of May 1st, 2024. And I would also want to say that there are many editions available of the Hindu newspaper. The one that I read is the Delhi edition. Okay, so let's begin reading. The first news that I come across is come clean on timing of Kejriwal arrest, SC to ED. Bench tells the agency that life and liberty is very important. So in yesterday's newspaper, we read that Kejriwal said that just not responding to ED summons does not mean that I'm going to be arrested. We read this yesterday. So bench tells the agency that life and liberty is very important. Delhi Chief Minister's petition argues that the actions came just before Lok Sabha elections in order to crush the opposition. So we know the election time is on, and his arrest was done during this time for the reasons we know, to put him down in the election race. So Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann leaves after meeting Delhi CM in Tihar jail on Tuesday. So he's in jail. You know that it's political, but let's read the first para. The Supreme Court on Tuesday said the ED, Electorate Enforcement Directorate, would have to justify the timing of the arrest of Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal in the excise policy case barely a week after the Model Code of Conduct for Lok Sabha election came into force. So we know that. What is this trying to say? Supreme Court slants IMA chief's remark about court. The Supreme Court on Tuesday expressed dissatisfaction at the Uttarakhand State Licensing Authority, saying it only woke up and moved against Patanjali Ayurved and its co-founder Baba Ramdev after the top court intervened and passed order. Tables turned on Tuesday when the Supreme Court took stern exception to comments reportedly made by Indian Medical Association. We read in the yesterday's newspaper that Patanjali case is going on, where it did not get or they rejected. I think they did not give approval for 14 of Patanjali products, saying that they don't meet the standard requirement for the product. This is what we read in the newspaper yesterday. So I think related to that, this article is there, not very important. Not very important. Political. Now we know that a lot of election news will be coming, a lot of political news, so not important. One minute. Uttar Pradesh government to establish cyber police station. So the state government, in response to the rising incidence of cybercrime nationally and globally, so there is something like cyber police station, something new, have been established by the UP government. Why? Because of the rising incidence of cybercrime nationally and globally. Okay. So like after reading the front page, I went ahead reading the rest. I remember, like, I have to read now the editorial section. World sports. Where is the editorial? Business news, election news, text and context, opinion, and the editorial. So we were quite there only, so let's read this also, like if there is anything. Yeah, very bad, like no quotas for Muslim. Driest April. City regularly gets pre-monsoon showers in April. However, this year, IMD Observatory recorded 0 mm of rainfall, 12 districts including Bangalore in the grip of huge rainfall deficiency. So there is, like, not very important but huge rainfall deficiency. We can say we had like very disturbed weather cycle going on. Earlier during winters there was no like snowfall in Kashmir, and later there was snowfall in Kashmir, and now it's like so much snowfall what we saw in yesterday's newspaper. During the winter season there was hardly any rainfall in Kashmir. Everything was dry out, and then later on the snow started coming later on. So there is whole like climate disturbances there in Bangalore also. It is like there were pre-monsoon showers expected during April, and now no shower, no rain shower, so no very dry. A fruit vendor setting up umbrella to protect from heat due to surge in temperature. So let's move on to the editorial section. Old time, present time. Old time, elections are going on. It's the present time for Kejriwal. continuing imprisonment cast a shadow on election campaign. It's political only, so we would ignore. Make EPI an essential program on immunization. What does it say? The year 2024 marks a significant milestone for immunization program both globally and in India. It commemorates 50 years since the launch of expanded program on immunization by WHO. The expanded program on immunization, we'll underline the full form. As the eradication of smallpox virus was on the horizon and a need to leverage this then immunization infrastructure and trained workforce was recognized to expand the benefit of available vaccines. So the purpose okay. So it was later renamed as Universal Immunization Program. So great progress, it's just telling about the great progress. Not that important. Instead of just making vaccines for children, it is saying that we should be focusing on making vaccines for adults and elderly people as well. Vaccines, what kind of vaccines? Which are meant to prevent disease, like diseases which are preventable through vaccines. For that, vaccine should be provided to adults and as well as the elderly. HPV vaccine for teenage girls is a good start. Wider section of the population. should be made available for free. It should be recommended by the government because then the reach would be very far, covering a larger area. Like, people are still hesitant to take vaccines nowadays. Um, like, people are hesitant. As we can see, many people didn't take the COVID dose also. I think Roger Federer did not took the COVID dose and he was not allowed to appear for one of the matches, I remember. The government should make effort to make the people less hesitant about vaccine. Learn and educate themselves about the vaccine. Awareness should be launched. Yeah, so next we'll move on. Competition and conflict, we'll see this. USA and China must manage their differences responsibly. US Secretary like, there is competition between US and China and we know that. So this US secretary is saying that we know that there is a competition, but that should not change into conflict, like a fight. Like, common ground should work together. So USA has imposed high tariffs on Chinese goods entering its market. Yeah, it's not that important. The need for the use of labor statistics. Trade unions can play a pivotal role in producing labor statistics. What is, in essence, trade union should produce labor statistics to research on IRS, LM, build an active and productive interface with academics and use academic studies to make evidence-based arguments. In ICL, ILC. Is Indian Labour Conference. Okay, so this article is there because today is Labor Day. Today is Labor Day. The reforms of the labor institution is always in the air as objective variables and subjective orientation of agencies involved. Factors keep changing. In the case of industrial relations system and labor market, variables such as product market, technology, trade, investment, and labor institutions such as trade unions, collective bargaining, and strikes keep changing. There are two aspects of the reform: substantive issues and procedural issues. Social dialogue is an important people who have taken commerce and accountancy as their optional, this is important because this deals with the trade union. Social dialogue is an important procedural institutional process to debate and arrive at consensual conclusion which would be used for legal and other policy oriented actions. In the post reform period, the government uses social dialogue agencies, the Indian Labour Conference, to push the reforms agenda. Evidence based reform arguments enrich social dialogue, something which has not happened so far. Social partners have been advocating their class based opinion unbacked by credible data. So, like, there is not backing of credible data. The ILC, Indian Labour Conference, degenerated into a talking shop. Labor statistics, unlike economic and industrial data, are not rigorous. For example, the Annual Survey of Industries and the National Sample Survey Office produce excellent statistics but have limited information relating to IRSLM. The Labour Bureau provides statistics on a range of industrial relations: strikes, trade union, labor statistics, contract absenteeism, labor absenteeism, contract labor absenteeism, labor turnover, labor inspection. It mostly provides administrative data, those generated as a part of implementing labor laws. The statistic on work stoppage are collected voluntarily. The composition scope of data published by Central Bureau has remained virtually the same over the decades. Means less only. They provide less data. They don't have much data available with them. Reform argument. Let us look at the three reform arguments put forth relentlessly by employers and neoliberal academics. What is neoliberal? Neoliberal means favoring policies that promote free market capitalism, reduction in government spending. So neoliberal, we can say that it's capitalist approach. Employers have criticized the labor inspection system as a case of Inspector Raj and called for its reforms. This criticism seems probably from their limited experience. They have complained that state government hardly sanction application for retrenchment or the closure of establishment. They also demand curb on the right to strike and prefer non-union. This is what the employer wants, right? That is, right to strike should not be there. Non-union, no trade unions should be there. Some academics and global agencies such as World Bank which have priors similar to the reforms. Opinions of employers have published studies consistently supporting the benevolent impact of reforms and refuting their obverse. For example, a study by BNB on the impact of labor regulation in 2004 has been widely used by employers and others to push higher and fire among worker. Among others. This is despite glaring weakness in the studies using B&B methodology, original or reverse. The government has fallen for these strong prior-based evidence, hook, line and sinker, and sought to introduce labor law reforms. To counter the reform arguments mentioned above, trade unions should have collected the relevant information, statistics on inspection, number of sanctions and actually employed inspector, universe of inspector, actual frequency of inspection, and studied them to make informed arguments to support labor inspection, even strengthening them. It is then that social partners and the government would have realized the poor quality of the data on inspection. They would realize that the labor inspectors are much fewer in number than the inspection universe. Research has shown that there are no all India data on labor inspections. Closure reform. Again on firing closure reforms, trade unions have not collected data on the retrenchment closure application under Chapter 5B submitted to the Labour Department. Permissions granted refused by Labour Department. They are not published in most states except for Maharashtra for a limited period. The denial of the permission was the International Relations Code on Industrial Relation has made legal strikes well nigh impossible. Illegal strikes carry a heavy penalty. Trade unions could have used the data on strikes and lockouts published by the Labour Bureau, which would show that lockouts are more frequent and account for more workdays lost than strikes during the post-reform period. This evidence would have changed the need for introducing harsher clauses. So this May Day, trade unions must resolve to carry out these measures. If nothing, statistical agencies such as labor will be reformed as a result of these pursuits. Like, there should be more data available regarding the labors. This is what it is trying to say. Move on to the opinion section. Implementing the Street Vendors Act. What is Street Vendors Act? Celebrated as the progressive legislation, the Act now faces numerous challenges in its implementation. A decade has passed since the Street Vendors Protection of Livelihood and Regulation of Street Vending Act came into effect, marking a significant milestone after nearly 4 decades of legal jurisprudence. Tireless efforts of street vendors movements across India. Celebrated as a progressive legislation, the Act now faces numerous challenges. Looking back, the mere enactment of the law did not ensure the protection and security of the street vendors in Indian cities. There was much to be desired in its execution. So, street vendors estimated to constitute 2.5% of any city's population, play multifaceted roles in city life. Like local vegetables, food vendors, essential providers of daily services. So, like, what are the challenges? However, the Act faced 3 challenges. First, क्या है? At the administrative level, there has been a noticeable increase in the harassment and eviction of street vendors despite the Act's emphasis on their protection and regulation. This is often due to the outdated bureaucratic mindset that views vendors as illegal entities to be cleared. This is also pervasive lack of awareness and sensitization about the Act among the state authorities. Wider public and vendors themselves often remain under the control of the local authority with limited influence about the state representatives, and the representation of women vendors in TVC is mostly tokenistic, matlab tokenistic meaning the person doing it wants to seem like they're helping a group of people who are treated unfairly in society, but their action is not meant to make lasting changes to how those people are treated. Very nice word this I'm going to be writing, which is tokenistic. Town vending committees. This is a nice word. Town vending committees. So the first one is tokenistic. Tokenistic. Yeah. So secondly, what are the problems? At the governance level, existing urban governance mechanisms are often weak. The Act does not integrate well with the framework established under the 74th Constitution Amendment for urban governance. ULB lacks sufficient power and capacities, like they don't have much powers. Schemes such as smart cities, laden with resources pushed as policy priorities, mostly focus on infrastructure development, ignore the provisions of the Act. Like they do not have much power. Third, at societal level, so they have talked about at all the levels. Administrative level, that there is not much attention. The mindset is that they consider the street vendors to be something that should be cleared. And at the governance level, urban governance, like there are not much, they don't have that much of power. Urban local bodies are not given that much of power. So here, lack of sufficient power and capacities. Here you can say they view vendors as illegal entities that are supposed to be clear. Like their mindset is not that. At the societal level, what is it? The prevailing image of the world class city tends to be exclusionary. It marginalizes and stigmatizes street vendors as obstacles to urban development instead of acknowledging them as a legitimate contributor to urban economy. These challenges are reflected in the city design and urban policies. Like we consider them to be that they should not exist, because that will hinder the urbanization process, the development of the you can say city, that would be hindered by the presence of the street vendors. Like they don't add up to the classiness of the city. So what is the way forward? While the Act is progressive and details its implementation requires support, possibly necessitating top-down direction and management starting from definitely Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs should look into the matter. Decentralization to be done to ensure effective implementation. Microcredit facility for street vendors. The urban lending board है क्या? Urban local bodies. So there should be more decentralization. These are what are the challenges now? Impact on climate change, surge, competition, and reduced incomes. these things are there. So impartial volunteer no longer. Not needed. Cost of meal rose by 71% in 5 years, salary by just 37%. I think this is the crux only. The disparity means that households with regular salaried people might be cutting back on spending on non essential items or luxury products. The salaried people will now cut down their cost, their cost on these non-essential items and luxury products. Salaries have increased by just 37% and the meals price rose by 71%. So just this is what is needed. Class 3 and Class 4 employees are going on indefinite strike. What are the demands? The demands include parity in pay scale with public sector undertakings, a need-based minimum wages and bonus. Okay, so after that, science and tech part. Microbes, not fossil fuel, produced most new methane study. So, modeling study has found methane emission from fossil fuels declined between 1990 and 2000s and have been stable since, whereas microbes have been producing more methane of late. One reason could be an increase in the cattle rearing in Latin America and more emissions from based in South and Southeast Asia. So methane is the second most abundant anthropogenic greenhouse gas after carbon dioxide, but it warms the planet more. Like methane responsible for like greenhouse effects, you can say. Over a century, methane has global warming potential 28 times greater than CO2. So yeah, methane is released by two main processes, biogenic and thermogenic. When fossil fuels are extracted from the earth's crust, thermogenic methane is released. Biogenic methane comes from microbial action. Studies in the past have pointed to microbes like anaerobic Kia as potentially top contributors of atmospheric methane using satellite data, but this information contains gap that ground-based models can bridge. So microbes, top contributors of, so when fossil fuels that are extracted from the earth, this thermogenic methane is produced and biogenic methane is produced due to the actions of the microbes. Shivering produces heat to keep you warm. Sena. Spacecraft. You like watching IPL, you get stick to like watching this, but it's wasting time. So okay. So now यहाँ तक I think we have read everything whatever was needed. Yeah. So let me like cut out the data. First election. So I think this is dedicated to election. Naxalized fights are killing people. So yeah, here we are about to complete it. So world में क्या हो रहा है? like making marijuana a less serious crime, but it would not legalize like marijuana used for recreational use. Next is Columbia lockdown campus after anti-war student protest escalate. So students occupy Hamilton Hall, a building on the main campus that had been occupied in the past by protesters several times. They say that the university has not made significant concessions and refused to leave the campus unless by force. Concessions are not provided. Which place? Columbia. So like it's time for elections in America as well. Not important. So Central Bank, RBI, Central Bank of India quarter 4 profit after tax jumps 41.3% to 8.807 crore. So there is a profit improvement in the PAT. Chola Investment Finance quarter 4 profit rises, and in health insurance, Star Health Insurance also profit rises. Funded by internal accruals and debt. So SEBI is making it mandatory for asset management companies to have an institutional mechanism for deterrence of potential market abuse, including front running. Considering the recent front running instances observed by the market regulators, SEBI board on Tuesday approved amendments to SEBI Mutual Fund Regulation Acts to enhance the existing regulatory framework, requiring AMC to put in place a structured institutional mechanism for identification and deterrence of potential market abuse, including front running and fraudulent transactions in securities. Like a structural institutional mechanism should be made. Not also that important. IOC share decline more than 4% as quarter 4 net halves. Like these are very not needed. So core sectors slid 5.2% in March. So the index of core industries rose to a 3-year low pace of 7.5 through 23-24, but hit a multi-year high in March. For the first time in 12 years, all 8 sectors recorded annual growth, led by double-digit in steel and coal. Growth moderated 5.2% in March. Fertilizer contracted not that important. There was no voice recording facility at the train station. So I think this page, and this page, 3 pages are left. So let's see. Political Yeah. So I think this is about, like earlier I think the licensing authority was giving license to Patanjali for uh, the products that is publishes the drugs and magic remedies is what they call. But later on, when the Supreme Court intervened in the matter, then they cancelled the license of the 14 pharmacy products of Patanjali. So now, this Supreme Court says, like, now only you have woken up after I have intervened into this matter, and what happened earlier. Okay, so the initial numbers were like very less number have voted, and the final figures are like there is a jump of 5.75% in the voter turnout. So there is like a suspicion here. Definitely, when you are like a film actor and then you move into politics, people are gonna love you, right? So we have seen that mostly the South stars they have entered into the politics, and now like we notice Kangana Ranaut also going into politics, joining a political party. So yeah, people will support them, and they can turn out to be a very good uh, like political leaders, because like so many people are supporting them, so they are likely to perform, like they're likely to win uh, the elections that they contest, likely to be elected. So the last page of the Hindu newspaper. Capex means capital expenditure. Aluminium industry is needed. Oh, so high inflation. Okay. Read about the redistribution of wealth. So at the time of independence, the main property rights were related to agriculture and land. The government had to acquire the rights in such estates for carrying out land reforms and construction of public assets. So the preamble to the Constitution aims to secure to all citizens social, economic justice, liberty, and equality. Part 3 of the Constitution lists down the fundamental rights that guarantee liberty and equality, while Part 4 contains the DPSPs that talks about the ownership and the control of the material resources. What does the Part 3 do? The Part 3, the fundamental rights that guarantee liberty and equality. Part 4 contains DPSPs, ownership and control of material resources. So these are the principles that the central and the state government should follow to achieve social and economic justice in the country. The Supreme Court in various cases has uh, interpret, interpreted the relationship between fundamental rights and DPSPs in 1978 in order to avoid excessive litigation directly in the Supreme Court by the Property Clause. The 44th Amendment Act omitted the right to the property as fundamental right and made it a constitutional right. The Supreme Court has now constituted a 9-judge bench to interpret the DPSPs. So the Supreme Court in various cases has interpreted the relationship between fundamental rights and DPSPs in order to avoid excessive litigation directly in Supreme Court by the Property Clause. The 44th Amendment Act omitted the right to property as a fundamental right and made it a constitutional right. Okay, so now if your fundamental rights are violated, there's a provision that you can directly approach the Supreme Court, right? So there has been excessive litigation directly to the Supreme Court by the Property Clause. So now it had cancelled from being a fundamental right and made it a constitutional right. So this is important. So we have, I think, done the Hindu newspaper. Now let's move on to the explain portion of the Indian Express. Why banks can't seek LOC to stop debtors from going abroad. El Nino anticyclone system. While large part of India experienced heat waves in April, this is geography, cars that drive themselves. So Tesla full self-driving may launch in China. This will help the company. However, it is clear that building autonomous vehicles is much more difficult than what car makers, including Tesla, initially thought. COVID vaccine link to blood clots. We have read this that AstraZeneca has side effects leading to blood clot. Why banks can't seek LOC to stop debtors from going abroad. The Bombay High Court has held that public sector banks cannot recommend on request the issuance of lookout circulars against loan defaulters and has set aside the provisions. It's quite complicated, it's no need. So the public sector banks cannot recommend or request the issuance of lookout circulars against loan defaulters and has set aside the provisions of the central government office memoranda that empowered PSBs to do so. Not important. El Nino anticyclonic system. See, I have not done geography yet, so I'm these anticyclones and all, you have to read it and then do. What is anticyclone? Areas affected by the heat waves. So let's see. It's almost everywhere in the country on different dates. So what led to the heat waves in April? Large part of India has witnessed heat waves and high temperature for two reasons. One is 2024 is a year that began in El Nino state. El Nino weather pattern refers to an abnormal warming of surface waters in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, which leads to extreme heat in many parts of the world and oceans. It is developed in June 2023 and generally the year which follow an El Nino event experience extreme temperatures, harsh multiple and extended heat wave spells, and lack of pre-monsoon rainfall. We experienced it in like Bangalore. 2. The persistent presence of anticyclonic system over the southern peninsular and southeastern coastal region is also responsible for very warm April. These high pressure systems, as a result, so because of second reason is because of the presence of anticyclonic system over the southern part. So I guess we are done for the day, and I believe it's very difficult to read, like 2 newspapers are not very much preferred, so I think I'll be leaving on to the Indian Express because it's very difficult to like manage reading 2 newspapers. I think this one we have done, place mechanism to curb floods. So I think both of them cover almost the same thing, only few here and there are extras, but I believe that at this point of time that during the preparation you should read only one newspaper, the Hindu or the Indian Express, both are same. In my reading from now on, I'll be just reading the Hindu, and Indian Express, it becomes quite like difficult to manage. I'm like very tired now after reading the Hindu, so I'll be reading only the Hindu from the upcoming newspaper reading sessions. And secondly, you should like supplement it with any monthly magazine you should go about reading, right? So this will be the case from tomorrow for the Hindu. So I'll be reading the Hindu from tomorrow onwards. The pattern will be the same, which is first I'll read the front page, and then I'll go read the editorial plus the opinion section, and then science and tech, and then the rest of the newspaper, right? So this will be from tomorrow what I'll be doing. And on personal level, what you can do, supplement with any monthly compilation of the current affairs. That's it. Nothing else is needed, because reading 2 newspapers is becoming very difficult for me. So yeah, this will be what I'll be doing from tomorrow onwards. So thank you everyone, and good luck for the rest of the day.